Thank you, Ma. I rise to second the motion.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the record of votes and proceedings of the National Assembly sitting of Wednesday, the 27th of November, 2019 be approved. Any issues or observations from honorable members? Corrections? To start with page 1. Thank you. Page 1, Woolly East? Nothing? Page 2?
The second paragraph, second line, the appropriate time of the committee of supply, each committee, not committees. Thank you.
I know he's not here, but on behalf of Alaji SB Silla, he had made it time and time over again that the clerk's office is omitting the E on his name. And I think it's...
You should take note of all these things. Thank you. I know people are usually very particular about spellings, including myself, especially their names. Thank you. Any more on page 3? We apologize on behalf of us. Page 3. Not Fatou. All you do?
Maybe she should have been here to clarify that, but then it's captured as Fatou K. Jawara on the attendance and Fatou K. Jawara on the intervention. So
you get the correct version when she comes.
Fatou K. Jawara, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well, I've been made to understand that all her details has Fatou. Her passport and everything is Fatou. So I think it's better we retain Fatou. Thank you.
They are not
Once
sick.
the motion failed, automatically the provisions of the standing order in terms of adjourning at 6 o'clock would
No,
stand.
we are reporting what happened yesterday.
Yes,
So we said the motion fell. We don't say fall. That's what I mean.
very well, it's noted. I'm confirming what you're saying.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Any
False.
more corrections?
Yeah.
Yes, Kiang West.
We use false.
Same position. Standing, not standing, standing order, not standing order.
Continuation and conclusion of the debate on the draft 2020 estimates of revenue and expenditure of the Republic of the Gambia, 1st January to 31st December 2020, both dates inclusive.
Okay. Thank you. Honorable members, this morning we will continue the debates from where we stopped yesterday. We still have some honorable members on my list, but still, that notwithstanding, if any honorable member wishes to be registered now, can do so by raising his or her constituency tag. That is just to ensure that I have
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And good morning to you, good morning to everybody. Good morning, Madam Speaker. And then good morning to the Finance Minister and the team. Honorable Speaker, being the first person to take the floor today, and then this is the 2020 budget estimate that we are debating here. And then I just want to thank the Honorable Minister and team for fulfilling their constitutional requirement according to the 1997 Constitution, also the Public Finance Act of 2014. Captured in the 2020 budget. And the second thing that they told me was, I hope this budget will be able to address the inaccessibility of women accessing their rice fields, that is, access to their rice fields. The other thing was rather healthcare services. Will this budget address the needed healthcare that is of access, quality, and available to the doorstep of every citizen of Nyanija and the Gambia at large. And then the other thing that they highlighted was water supply, because still we have some communities within Nyanija who we know that they lack clean, potable consultation, not only within the greater Banjul area, but also to our constituencies, ask for them what they definitely need to reflect in the estimates. Honorable Speaker, coming to the budget proper, revenue. In 2018, that is the 2019 budget, the revenue forecasted was 11.8 billion. That is for this year, 2019. But this year we've seen an increase. That is a revenue forecast of 13.6 billion. So my questions will be, what has led to this increase? Are we increasing our tax base, or are we increasing our tax rates? Or are we we'll be talking here wouldn't be realized. We need money to run the affairs of this country. We need money for development of this country, especially coming from one of the poorest areas, that is Nyanija. We need money to develop this country. The other thing is, Honorable Speaker, what mechanism should we employ to minimize the leakages by all the collecting agencies? I realize, and it is not a hidden fact, that it's not only GRA that is collecting revenue. There are other ministries, departments, and agencies who know that they are collecting revenue. If you go through the budget, you will see items by collecting agencies. So definitely, what should we do to make sure that we have maximum revenues from all these sectors? Coming from the health sector, I know, no matter how small it is, all MDAs to make sure that we have maximum revenue generation, maximum revenue collection at wherever, definitely. Because we all know man and money, if I am connected to money, I might be tempted. If I am collecting, let's say, $100 or $1,000 and I'm thinking back home, I don't have fish money there, definitely I might be tempted to use some part of it to take home. But if there are measures, strict measures, whereas probably we will have less contact with the monies. You just deal with numbers, then you have your everything inputted. I think those are welcome moves that we should all be thinking in that direction. Honorable Speaker, These are questions that we need to ask ourselves. Though, coming from a constituency where we grow our own rice, we eat our own rice. If I tell you at my home in Nyanija, we don't buy a bag of rice. We get it from our furrows. The whole year around, 12 months per year, I don't buy a bag of rice. My bag of rice is in the Combos here. But in the Combos here, I'm also a resident here, and I'm also a Gambian. There are other Gambians who know that they are still not feeling that tax-free on rice, because the price of rice, if not increasing, is still at the same stagnant place. So definitely, Honorable Minister, these are issues that I want you to help us understand. Is there still tax-free on rice, or have this tax that been implemented? That I would also like to know will be, how are we going to bail out our dying SOEs, that is the state-owned enterprises? Because the essence of creating this state-owned enterprises is for them to be paying dividends to government and also give services to the ordinary citizens. But going through the budget, I have only seen one or two whom we know that they are expected to pay dividends. I understand they are in critical situations based on past histories and the like, but what are we doing to make sure that we bail them out? We bring them forward so that we can start seeing the positive effects that they can contribute to the economy, and also the positive effects that they can contribute to the ordinary citizens of the Gambians. Definitely, we should be reasons. So, Honorable Speaker, coming to the expenditure, the last year budget, we expected to spend, that is 28 billion, and this year there is an increase of, let's say, this year there is an increase of 2 billion, that is 30 billion. What we should ask ourselves is, the bulk of the expenditure is going to debt service, because if you look at debt servicing, 41% of these expenditures are going to it. That is for 9 billion. I'm also interested to know, because if you compare it with that of 2019, if you look at the figure for debt servicing, it was something like 4 billion, but now it is that is it. We have to keep the government running. We have to keep the state running. So definitely, Honorable Speaker, the recurrent budget is very high, but we have to also invest in the development aspect, because as a country guided by the National Development Plan that we are all singing, I think it is definitely very, very important. We look at the development aspect. We want to be like countries like Singapore, we want to be like countries like the United States of America and the like, but we cannot be like those countries if we are not investing in development. We have to. I don't know where we're going to get the money, but we have to invest in development. Because for me personally and others, I want to see my constituency prioritize a department or agency or a ministry, but if they are not spending based on the priority needs of the citizens, definitely I think it leaves much to be desired for them to be prioritized again. We have to put in measures, whereas if we put in money in a particular ministry, we have to see the positive effects reflecting on our electors, positive effects reflecting on the citizens, because that's why we are here. So, Honorable Minister, I think it is important for all the ministries, departments, and agencies for us to know how much have they spent their 2019 budget. If not, definitely, it wouldn't help us in our prioritization. Coming to the health sector. Infant mortality rate, likewise others. So what can we do as a nation to make sure that these things are tackled? Honorable Speaker, like I said earlier, let's all look at the sectors based on their priorities and then based on their targets according to the National Development Plan. Because that is the guiding document, that is the guiding policy document that we have. If we spend not based on priorities and whatever, definitely I think we should look at how we allocate resources to each of them. So, Honorable Speaker, in essence, whatever we are doing here, whatever we are trying to do based on allocating the resources to maybe each ministry, department, or whatever, we should base it on the priorities of the National Development Plan. They are highlighted, very well defined there, and we have to tax them based on that. And now, henceforward, speaking from the Health Committee point of view, what we intend to do is, at the end of every quarter, we will collaborate with finance for them to give us how the expenditure on each budget line based on the ministry's budget, how have they been spending their allocated resources. And then we call them on board, discuss with them where they are going in the wrong direction or whatever. We see how best we can address that before waiting until the end of the year and say, you are spending too much on travel, spending too much on whatever. That will definitely help us in oversight functions. So, Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, this is a national budget, and this is the budget for the whole country. This is not the budget for an individual, or let's say this is not budget for the president only. This is our whole budget. If it is affected, if it is bad, I am affected. If it is bad, somebody is affected. We are all inclusive. So what we should do here is to come up with positive thinking, positive thought, positive ideas on see how best we can make this document one of the best. Everybody is inclusive, but not like pointing fingers at this, pointing fingers at this. Where we see things are not prioritized, where we think spending are not definitely necessary and not justifiable, let's scrap that and put it to somewhere else. That's a welcome move. Personally, I welcome that. But I think some of the honorable members, the way they are definitely addressing some of these issues, I think it leaves much to be desired. You cannot just point fingers, you say, office of the president, this office of the president. No, you cannot do that. Office of the president is one thing. It is an office in the country, like the National Assembly here. Let's take an example here. If we are not well resourced to do our oversight, if we are not well remunerated, I go to the Honorable Minister of Finance. I don't have fuel, I don't have fees money. He gave me money. He come here, will I challenge him? No, I won't. I won't. So let us look at in that direction. We have to allocate resources based on the responsibilities we have. If there is any budget line in the National Assembly that is not necessary, that is not justifiable, let us scrap it. Likewise, Office of the President, likewise others. But not just point fingers at one thing. No. So, Honorable Speaker, in short, I think that's what I have. I don't want to repeat what others have been saying since yesterday. And I think it is the starting point for this new dispensation. We have to thank the coalition stakeholders, all of them, for coming up with this thought, bringing everybody together to change the government. And now this government, everybody is inclusive. You have to contribute your quota, I contribute my quota, and we see how best we can develop this country. And and then now every definitely, we have to thank the coalition stakeholders. Honorable Speaker, I think that's what I have. If I go for it, probably I might be emotional or whatever. Just of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member for Upper Fuladu.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. When I got my copy of these estimates of revenue and expenditure for 2020, I got concerned. But I got more concerned when the Honorable Minister came now to lay the budget before us and concluded by saying that he remained convinced that this budget will be a useful tool in our drive to achieve and sustain macroeconomic stability and the government's primary objective of reducing poverty and improving basic services delivery to all, if we all recommit to strict fiscal discipline. I was concerned because I have very high regards for the Honorable Minister, and I asked myself, if coming from the private sector, what kind of financial expert or financial specialist would come and advise his board that this project would actually make your company progress and address some of these issues as far as poverty elevation is concerned and better service delivery. But then when we resolved into committees to have a bilateral with our relevant sectors, that's when I realized what kind of constraint the minister is under in trying to satisfy all these sectors with their huge demands, which sometimes are not viable, if I may say. So I will take the minister's advice that if we all recommit not to strict fiscal discipline, by further supporting him in the sense that maybe he cannot say no to some areas, but we are in a position where we have a shared responsibility, and we will help him to make sure that this budget is further reviewed at the committee of supply level to make sure that it's reflective of our needs as a country today. Overall, if you look at the budget, you will see that the government's priority, in as much as I want to say, but the need to develop as a country now is not prioritized. Of the $30 billion that we plan to spend, even where our revenues are dropping, is still not a primary balanced budget. Because if you take the interest element now from the $9.4 billion debt that we have, it's still not balanced. So on that note, the government plans to spend over $27 billion on recurrents and only $2.7 billion on capital. So therefore, very small development. So I will start my contribution with the centralized services now, Honorable Speaker. And if you go to page, I think, page 71 of the budget, we have under centralized services $1.1 billion. But I just want the Minister to clarify certain things there for us because we need to unpackage this bundle. We have under code 2216104 contingency, other charges, $30 million. Arbitration and court awards, $100 million. Can you please inform this august body which arbitrations and court awards are we expected to pay? And what is the difference between that and settlement of confirmed debts, which is another $300 million? Under the same category, you have subvention to non-financial public corporations or institutions. Last time, I think this was clearly asked, where we want to see on the budget which particular institutions these are. But here is very vague. I cannot say for sure what OC means or what other codes means. So we would like to know the difference between the settlements of confirmed debts and the arbitration charges. We want to know what this contingency is for. And I'm sure the Honourable Minister will do justice because he will come back and defend these claims. But we have to know what we are actually ratifying. So going from there, going to our financing gap. I remember in 2017 when we came into office, we had to revise our the 2018 budget, which was a financing gap of about $4.7 billion. But we had to revise it to bring it down to under $1 billion, about $921 million, if I remember. All because we want to tighten our belts, to rely less on borrowing so that we can address our debts as a country. But since then, we have seen our debt portfolio going up and up and up to a point now where for every $100 that we receive as revenue, we are paying over $41 on debt services alone. And as a country now, we ask ourselves now, what would we do with $59 to pay our recurrence and develop from it? So this issue of our debt has to be addressed, and we have to stop relying on debt so that we can come out of the woods and begin to progress. I also remember the Honorable Minister promised in the last budget session that we are going to address the law that we passed on the new vehicle policy to ensure that all that policy is implemented. But again, I want to know from the Minister's perspective, why is this still not implemented? And why are we, in fact, planning to spend another $50 million next year to buy more vehicles? The travel vote, the Honorable Minister planned this year, although it's cut down from 335 million last year, but it's down to 316 million. But I remember, it wasn't in August or October of this year, there was a claim, I think, from his office that we are spending too much on traveling at the tune of about 239 million, which he believes that he needs to put a moratorium to make sure that this is capped. So in that case, I would suggest and recommend to the Assembly that we need to bring this number down further. As a country, since we don't have much money, we have to look at what priorities we have to give. And if traveling cannot be, we cannot do without traveling. It's understandable. But because we have other areas that are of priority, I think we can put that number down to $200 million to start with and see how it goes. That way, every institution or sector will be able to prioritize which travels are needed and which are not needed. And that will also help his office to make sure that that particular vote is controlled from our end. Now, we talked a lot about agriculture, health, education, as should be the priorities. And yes, the reason why the Gambia subscribed to these declarations or protocols, if you call it, if you may, like the Mobutu Protocol on agriculture, the Abuja Protocol on health, and the Nairobi Protocol declaration on education, is because it came as a common understanding among African countries that the only way we can uplift ourselves and meet our commitments to the SDGs, for example, is to commit our own budgets to these sectors so that we can alleviate poverty. Now, you will see that the ministry has claimed that there is about $2.4 billion is coming, of which 376 now is paid for by the government. 376 million is paid for by the government, but the rest is coming from the donor partners. Now, last year, the donor partners, inclusive of the government's GLF, spent 3.7 billion, or budgeted 3.7 billion. But you tell me, what have we gained in this sector? Which real player in this sector have you seen made it to an admirable level as far as agriculture is concerned, or as far as aquaculture or fisheries is concerned? Nothing. So we cannot depend on donors to uplift us from this level. We have to commit to these issues. And that is the same with health. That is the same with education. Even though we have seen some increases now here and there, especially in the education, but still, it's far below par to what we should commit to this area. Having said that, when you come to the defense and security, I am a member of the committee, and I think we had our bilaterals now with certain institutions or sectors now in the sector. But across the board, whether it's defense and security, youth and sports, everybody will come and claim that they are even under-resourced or very less factored in this budget. And more so is to do with what they have in their pockets, rather than what they would do to contribute and complement to the security sector reform that is very much needed. I don't have a problem for people been paid more because, I still think that in the Gambia, salary levels are very low. But in the scheme of things, and where we stand as a country, we have to ask ourselves, now, can we afford it? And we also notice now a very big gap in the whole coordination of the budget cycle. The gap is this. The Ministry of Finance now will roll out now a budget circular, whatever they call it, and the ministries and sectors now will submit the Ministry of Finance now will give them a ceiling, but 9 out of 10, the ministries now will always surpass that ceiling so that they can have a room to defend it and bring it down to a level that they like. But what is more worrying is they are more concerned about their allowances than the subvented institutions under them who are the implementers of these policies. If you look at it across the board, especially the Ministry of Youth and Sports, Defense, there are more money given to on allowances than the subvented institutions who sometimes they only have 5 million, 9 million, or even less. And in the budget executions, they even sometimes have less than half of that. And these are the people who really go on the ground to implement what is agreed at the policy level. So again, I agree with my brothers in the security sector or the youth and sports sectors that at policy levels, ministers and their experts has to be taken care of. But these subvented institutions has to be first and foremost resourced to be able to implement their policies. Again, coming back to security sector, we have seen in certain areas from 0 to 450 million. Sorry, 450,000, over 45,000% increment in certain areas. That I just don't understand where this is coming from. And the minister made the point that most of this is to do with the policy from PMO, who has overnight increased certain allowances from $650 to about $2,000 per day. So, and this was supposed to be implemented this year, but the minister refused to do that because it was not budgeted for, number one, and number two, that he's more than happy to roll it out next year. But I have this, for that. Just like the Mobutu Protocol declaration, just like the Abuja Protocol, just like the Nairobi Protocol, these are also policies that we have actually agreed to. And we have to ask ourselves do we actually have to give priority to this PMO's policy over those policies? So here we have to ask ourselves those questions. The honorable member for Serekunda mentioned yesterday about violence. I understand that we can allocate all the right places, to make sure that this budget is sound and reflects the true needs of the people. But after here, they can go and do whatever they want, and it's still lawful, because the Public Finance Act, Section 24, gives the minister the right, the authority to even buy 100% of allocations from honorable member for Banjul North was talking about, from even essential services to non-essential services. So since that is a problem, but the honorable member for Serekunda did mention that section, if I remember it was section 152 of the Constitution, sorry, 151, subsection 6, is a provision that supersedes any act because it's a constitutional provision. So I think the minister can rely on that for now to make sure environment is controlled to a degree that is affordable. Then we go to another satellite institution that I have at heart. When you look at the Ministry of Trade, for example, I see they have quite a lot of substantial amount allocated to development, but that is more to do with donors again. But for example, GAIPA, in the promotion of our trade and to address our trade deficit, we have a trade deficit of about $25 billion. But this is an institution who, if you look at their subventions, the government is not subcommitting anything, like cents on the dollar to actually capacitate that institution to make sure that our trade deficit is addressed in the right manner. Then we look at something that I mentioned here last year. And I believe that when I mentioned this, many people got it out of context and thought maybe I've been very subjective. See, I will refer this House to section 155, subsection 3 of the Constitution, where it says that no loan shall be raised by the government on behalf of itself or any other person or authority otherwise than by or under the authority of an act of the National Assembly. So, last year, September, when I saw a letter from the Office of the President, it was actually September the 13th, signed by one Yankuba Seri, to instruct the Minister of Works, that an award is, a contract is awarded to an individual company to rehab Banjul. I asked myself, who is this gentleman who has the authority over GPPA, which is enacted by the House, this Parliament, to conduct that same duty? We, as a National Assembly, don't have the expertise. Nor does any ministry or Office of the President have the expertise to conduct a good procurement procedure over anybody to make sure that there is value for money, to make sure there is transparency, to make sure there is accountability. So when I saw that, I got concerned, and I raised my concerns here, I think. But I think my views were taken as subjective. Then I saw a contract, a financial contract agreement, which again is in violation of this particular provision that I read before, and also in violation of Section 36H of the Public Finance Act of 2014. So I said to myself, I need to engage somebody to make sure that these laws are respected before it comes to us to pass it in this budget. And I have to say this, I had an engagement with the minister who confirmed that he has in fact stopped this to address it better, so that we can all look at it together and address it so that when it comes here, it will pass. So my point on that is that if we have institutions like, for example, GT Board come to us and has an issue on their compliance to GPPA, and we take them to task, why should I not address this one too? And if I don't fail to address this, then what moral ground do I have to actually challenge them to failing to respect the GPPA Act? So here I am. I want to ask the Honorable Minister, this Banjul rehabilitation should be done 10 years ago. But since it's done now, I support it. But I want it to be done by law, within the confines of the law. So is the procurement GPP compliant? And if it is, I want him to furnish us with the GPPA certificate to support that case. This loan agreement between the contractor and the government, is it a loan? And if it is a loan, I want the Honorable Minister to tell us if this was approved by the National Assembly. If not, why not? So that is basically all I want to say for now, because I think the rest of the issues have all been addressed since yesterday. But these are areas that I have a concern about, because I believe that if any unlawful act comes before this National Assembly, without notice, we can either put the minister in trouble by being in contempt of the National Assembly, which we don't think that's the case, but we want him to enlighten us about some of the lapses about this Banjul project, because I have been to so many capital cities in the world. But the last time the last one I visited was Praia, and I just hope that Banjul is like Praia. And by making sure that there is value for money, I believe the people of Banjul might get more than maybe what is specified in the contract. That's why the GPPA would have done that justice, not only on the amount of money or who gets the contract, but also about making sure that what is agreed upon is what is delivered. So on that note, Madam Speaker, I'll rest my case here until we get to the committee level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable Member for Jimara.
Thank you very much, Madam. Madam, I can remember in 2017 when this new government came to power, and when we newly came to this parliament, the then Minister of Finance was here for us to reduce the allocated budget for the Office of the President, and we did that. Yesterday, some people talked about the advisors at the Office of the President, which I will also talk about. When you look at the allocation under the Office of the President, you can see two advisors. In 2019, the two of them were to give, there was an amount which is allocated to them. That's 500,000. But this year, or 2020, it is increased to $1 million. I don't know where did they get that, or how will they come with that figure. And also, I think to get the advisor is not a problem, but then it is always important to get the advisor whom you know he have the knowledge what he will advise you on. But you cannot pay taxpayers' money to somebody whom you know that individual need an advice, and you tell that individual to advise an president. Still now we are paying in taxpayers' money. That one is not fair. I want the Honourable Minister to help us. The reason why that amount from 600 million is increased to 700 million at the Office of the President. And yet still they are saying there is no money, but they are increasing the amount of the Office of the President, the allocation.
On celebrations and all those things. But to me, I don't think it is meaningful. Because we were saying that no to celebrations and no to this, no to that, thinking that there are relevant things that will be prioritized. Anytime I talk, I always talk about prioritizing, planning, strategizing, and we name them. And we all know those that we are supposed to prioritize. There is no need for me to stand and talk about it because everybody has spoke about it. And I don't want to repeat myself. So I think the issue of prioritization is very crucial. You could go to the hospital. There are no good laboratories. Sometimes you go to the hospital, even to see the staff at the lab is a problem. And still, we are doing what we are doing since, I think, when I was not born, for 52 years now. What is the essence now? And I want to know, where are we heading to? And is it that we are fooling ourselves? Because we all know what we should do. We are all here. We all know what we should do, and we all know what is the essence of budget. In our compounds, we have our fish monies and all those things, you name them. So if we misbehave, or you give me a fish money, then I take it and put it in an osusu, do you think people will eat? They will not eat. And these are things that we really have to talk about. This budget allocation is just like the budget that we are putting in our compounds or in our homes. We all know that. If I know that I'm going to take a loan, and if I take loan, I'm going to buy a taxi, and then I take this loan, and people will invite me to naming ceremonies, you name them. I will put that money to that. When the loan comes, how can I pay? I will not be able to pay. I think this is how we should really sit and think thoroughly how we will manage the little that we have. You know, in the Gambia, we are saying that Gambia is a small country, we don't have money. We do. Maybe we are not strategizing. We are just using it as we like. So now, it is high time for us, the National Assembly, to do away with our political views, our partisan views, and then we come over and see what we can do as far as the Gambians. And if I say the Gambians, those who are in the Nyanijas, as my honorable colleague just said, those who are in the Woolies, we all know that those people, they are vulnerable. Do they know anything about the budget? We are not even training them to know anything about this budget. And then at the end, we'll say, God is good. God is good. Just keep on praying. We are praying and we are not doing the right things. How can we say that God is good? And what we need, we will get. Now, from there, Madam Speaker, I will talk about the subvention. The subvention that we are talking, what is in? Now they are saying that this amount that they have put into Ministry of Women and Children, that is true. But how? What is the breakdown? Is there anything for people with disabilities? Is there anything for social services? I think the NGO Affairs Agency, all the NGOs, they are paying every year. They have their subscriptions every year. But where is that amount going to, Honorable Speaker? I would like the Honorable Minister to tell me where is that amount going to. Because we know that the NGOs, they are paying the government. But in return, what is the government doing for the NGOs? They are paying every year. We are paying, including organizations of people with disabilities. Everybody is paying the government. But where is that amount going to? And what benefit? Because if you look at people with disabilities progressing, it's because of the NGOs. It's true, the government has created a conducive environment. We thank them for that. But what about the rest? Go to the Department of Social Welfare. What is there? Some of them are saying that they are catering for people with disabilities, but only physically challenged. And even that is not enough. There is no enough wheelchairs for them. There are no prostheses. The machines that they are using are getting old. They were donated by some philanthropists in the 80s. And still now, that building is supposed to collapse. Some of them just decided to abandon because anything can happen. And we have been talking about it since time immemorial, since when we were here in this National Assembly, we were talking about it. So that being the case, I think the chunk of service, is it decentralized? I think we really need to see what we can do. And then the chunk of recurrent. If you say this recurrent, and then we are not servicing for development, sometimes people will travel and they know that when they come, they should do this. But when they come, they ignore, they put everything, all the files in the cabinet to gather dust. I think these are the issues that we really need to think about. These are issues that we have to talk about. We all know the amounts that are put in place. We all went through the budget. But when it comes to tomorrow for this, how do you call it? Committee of State, I think we should really sit and think about it. This is not a witch hunting, or this is not to do something that other people will not like, but what will be good for the country. We all go to countries, we all travel, and we all know what is happening in the other countries. Why can't we do it into our country? I think we are falling for ourselves, and then, sorry for saying it, we will all go to our graveyards, and when we go, Allah will ask us. Thank you very much.
Honorable nominated member, Gassama.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for giving me the floor. Honorable Speaker, the valid constitution of the Republic of the Gambia is 1997 constitution, which established a sovereign state under which sovereignty resides in the people. Section 152 requires the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs to lay before the National Assembly estimate revenue and expenditure of the Republic of the Gambia at least 30 days before the end of the each financial year. This is a constitutional requirement. The same 1997 constitution, according to section 101, also requires this August Assembly to ratify any bill laid before this August Assembly by the Executive. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the annual estimate appropriation bill, like the youth sector, the amount allocated for the youth sector, that is 114 million. Honorable Speaker, it's not promission. The youths are the backbone of this country in terms of development. If you look at the population, they are 65% out of the total population of the country. So they are very important institutions. Though all the institutions are important, but the youth should be key in terms of development. Honorable Speaker, if there is going to be an adjustment, youth sector should be the primary objective, really. This August Assembly has all the power to scrutinize this budget carefully. It is our responsibility. Let us be constitutional, not partisan, but constitutional. We have to be constitutionalist. That is the most priority for this House to deliver. It's important. We need to know our importance and the value. We have all the power to ratify the bills, make laws of the land. We are lawmakers, but we are not a policy maker. But we have the power to scrutinize the budget and give consideration at the end of the day. So it's very important. We have a very important role to play, really. Another point that I want to buttress on, that is the Minister of Agriculture. It's not even, look at that, even that the amount budgeted for that is 394 million dollars. $394 million. Even that amount is small. It's not promising. Agriculture is the backbone of the economy. We always said that we are empowering agriculture, we are empowering youth, we are this thing. Agriculture, if you are saying that we are empowering, we have to we have to implement it, not only by mere words saying that we are going to empower. We have to be creative. The creativity is important. Tap creative ability to invent and develop new and original ideas. You have to be creative. So it's important. You cannot just say that I'm empowering. You have to deliver. That's the most important part of it. That's why the whole world is moving. If you go to China, you compare with Gambia, you will see the big difference. China is moving. This SDG, social development goal, is important. How to achieve that? Agriculture is part of it. It's important. So we have to be, let us just, try to be serious. What we are doing is important. Really, this is not promising. I think if there is a need for adjustment, we need to adjust on these areas, like agriculture, youth, health. These are very important sectors. No, all these sectors are important, but these are key in terms of development. It's important. Let's speak the truth, nothing but the truth. We have to move forward as a nation. It's important. Honorable Speaker, I have another, before I take my sheet, I have a point here where the Minister of Finance to shake light on that. That is the GDP of the economy. If you look at the 2018, it's 6.5. It was 6.5. Now it's gone down to 4.0, I think, 4.0, something like that. It's seriously gone down. So I think the minister will be in a better position to shake light on that. Because I think if you see anything, there must be a reason responsible for it. There must be a factor responsible for it. I think if you can shake light on that. Honorable Speaker, I just want to advise the members of my colleagues, as parliamentarians, we have a very important role to play. Our first role, to monitor the government system. 2, to ratify the bills. 3, to give consideration at the end of the process. That's the last stage. So we have a very, very important role to play. So as I have rightly said before, let us not be partisan. We have to be constitutional. That is important. We have to be constitutional. It's very, very important. Gambia is bigger than any of us here. You should see Gambia first before anything. I hope we will deliver what is really expected from us. Honorable Speaker, on that note, thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Member for Bundunka Kunda.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. I will first want to start my intervention on page 5. Honorable Speaker, I think there is a serious mistake there. On page 5, expenditure budget funding overview. Dalasi in triple zeros. I think if that is the case, we will be talking about trillions. And I don't think that is the case. I think that triple zero should be out, Honorable Minister. After having said that, Honorable Speaker, I believe the Minister and his experts did very well or tried their level best to come up with a budget for us, meaning they did their work. or they bring an estimate for us. And it is our turn now to do our job. Honorable Minister, from the budget estimate you present, we can see that on page 1, net surplus deficit is 0%, meaning there is funding for every item in the budget. But, Honorable Minister, I believe debt restructuring is a loan payment that needs to be restructured. I don't think that should be a revenue. We have debt restructuring of $2 billion. And this $2 billion, I don't think it is a revenue. So I don't know why it is put under. It is put there for it to be considered as a revenue. Honorable Minister, about 45% to 42% of the budget, I want to believe, is about grants. We are expecting, if you look at the total grant, we are expecting, I may be wrong, but I think it's about 45 to 42%. I want to know if this budget we are expecting, or grants we are expecting, how so are you that we will get these grants, which form huge part of our budget? Because you told us that in 2018, the budget support you were expecting, we could not get it in 2018, but in 2019. So before we approve this budget, we want to know, are we really sure that we are going to get these grants that we are expecting, Honorable Minister? Honorable Speaker, the debt interest also has increased from 2.7 billion to 4 billion. And if you look at this, this is very serious, because we know that debt service creates only problems for economics. And the type of economy we have, or this estimate that is presented to us, we have a deficit of 5.5 billion. And that means we are going to look for or borrow 5.5 billion to actually accommodate for the total spending of 30 billion that is projected. That should be spent in 2020. If you look at this, Honorable Minister, I think this budget is not realistic. We want to build our economy. We don't want to do anything that will bring hardship into this country. I know you have a ceiling for ministers when they come for you for bilaterals, but I think tomorrow we will also peg a ceiling for you, so that the 2.2 billion, I will appeal with my colleagues. We have a ceiling for the minister, so that the budget deficit will not be more than 2 billion. Because to me, we cannot afford to spend 5.5 billion deficit after looking at the loan services that we are doing. If we do that next year, what are we going to do? Are we really thinking about how we can rebuild our economy? I mean, we have to start somewhere. We have to tell the Gambians the realities on the ground. Let the whole Gambia know about it, and we start from somewhere, even if it is going to be hard, for us to build our economy. But we cannot just close our eyes and come with figures. Yes, budget is about figures, but not only figures. We expecting budget to make impact on the life of our people. And the way we are going, this is not going to make any meaningful impact, but instead will increase hardship on our people, which I don't think we can allow. We all know where we are coming from. And if you look at domestic amortization, Honorable Minister, that is from minus 2.80 to minus 2.85. That also is in the increase. And when I look at the budget, funnily for me, what we were crying for, or what we were complaining of, that is furniture and fitting. That was coming every year, year after year. Most of them has been scrapped, but the allowances, it means everything is being hidden under allowances, and allowances is on the increase, which, Honorable Minister, I think tomorrow we are going to look together to close our eyes, and where actually it is not necessary, we do our best to remove those. Because at a budget deficit of 5.5 billion, we cannot be blindly increasing our allowances like we do not care. Honorable Speaker, going to page 48, that is Ministry of Interior. Shortly before we start the budget session, I was going around in my constituency. I call it a constituency outreach tour. And to my surprise, the Kanifing East Divisional Police Headquarters is stationed in Bundu. And in this divisional headquarters, there are 19 police stations under them. And none of them have a vehicle. And they have a constraint of vehicle, that is to patrol at night to secure us while we are sleeping. But I was amazed when they told me that they did not have a single vehicle to patrol. When they are, in fact, that fire incident that happened in Kanifing, I was told was under their command, they have to go look for private vehicle to mobilize their men to go and secure those areas. So if the President's office, we are allocating 2.5 million for vehicle. I don't know. I think the former president left a lot of vehicles at State House. I don't know why do we need to buy more vehicles there. And if you look at their budget, under administration, they have vehicles. Sometimes they just want to change their vehicle. But their men on the ground, if you look at entity, law enforcement and crime, prevention administration, there is no vehicles, zero allocation for them. So what impact is this going to make for the people in Bundu or in that administration? I think we are going to look into all these things. The vehicle they want to purchase, we bring it to this item. And I was also told that each prisoner, only $5 is being allocated for them for their feeding for a day, I was told by the police commission. And I was amazed when I look at food and food services, and I saw there 26.6 million. So I wonder whether the amount that is going to them is not going as expected, or these food and food services are for something else, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, I think these are things we should look at to make sure the budget reflect and make an impact to the taxpayers who are paying taxes to make sure that their lives are changed. And also, Honorable Minister, we will want to know this $2 billion of debt restructuring, which loan agreement that was certified here, that has been restructured, so that we know that these are the debts that have been restructured. Honorable Minister, tax, the way our country is, we all know that we are highly dependent on tax. But I think we have to be very careful the way we tax. I think there is more of tax leakage that we should be concentrating on than to be levying more tax on our people, which will make them poorer by the year, because we all know that when the government concentrates on domestic tax or domestic borrowing, this increase tax rates, and instead of banks lending their money to people, obviously they want to just fold their hand and put their monies in treasury bills. And Honorable Minister, if you look at it, somebody made mention that the World Bank has a threshold for domestic borrowing, which is 1%. And our domestic borrowing has gone up, which is more than 1%. And as a serious government, if we don't have serious financial discipline, I don't think donors and our major funders and even those giving us budget support will take us seriously. We have to take ourselves seriously first so that other people can take us seriously. We have to have a serious financial discipline. This is the only way we can make a headway. Somebody made mention of Banjul project. And in the budget, we saw a greater Banjul area road project. Honorable Minister, we will be glad if you can tell us whether this greater Banjul road project, is this Banjul project part of it? Because we saw 376.5 million that is allocated for it. And I don't think this August Assembly will be able to allow something, a project that we don't even know about, we have not even seen the design of it. I don't think we will approve government taxpayers' money who entrust us to make sure that we do a proper oversight to be able to allow their taxes to be used on projects that we don't even know how it come about. We don't even know what is really involved. So please make it clear for us, is this Banjul project part of the Greater Banjul Area Road project? And also the OIC project, which is 12 million. Now this OIC project, Honorable Minister, are they projects that has already been approved? Because I also want to know whether they were brought here for any ratification and whether in this year we will be able to get them. Honorable Minister, if you go to page 111, sorry, also. Honorable Minister, if you go to this one, I think my colleagues have dealt with that. Let me jump that. If you go to National Assembly, Honorable Speaker, I've seen 60 million for vehicle. And we know that we requested for vehicle for us to really do proper oversight. But Honorable Speaker, I think our colleagues whose vehicles has been completely destroyed and are having a very big problem in trying to come and go to work or do their work as they are expected, are living in a nightmare to come to work and go home, and even to reach out to their consequences. These people are without a vehicle. We were expecting the authority, National Assembly authority, to look into their plight, to make sure that they are mobile. I mean, we have seen in other departments where junior directors have been given vehicles, and a whole honorable member with a whole constituency have no vehicle, and we think that is normal. I think their conditions need to be looked at. I think they deserve to be mobile so that they can also do their work properly. But it seems that we are all closing our eyes on them. And in fact, just last year, the clerk of the National Assembly got a new vehicle. And in fact, he was having another vehicle. But a new vehicle was given to them as a matter of necessity. And these honorable members within us, their vehicle has been completely destroyed. And nobody seems to say anything about it. And we all keep quiet. We don't even want to know how they go and come. Or are they able to reach out to their people as it is expected from them? Honorable Speaker, I think we need to also look for something for them so that they can also be mobile. Honorable Speaker, the rest, I believe, have been dealt with my colleague. Therefore, for that being the case, I will also would like to stop here till tomorrow, and I would like to thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Honorable Member for Tumana.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the floor. Honorable Speaker, I am happy that, I live to witness this day, to also take part in this debate. The total revenue of this country last year was $25.2 billion, and this year it has dropped to $24.4 billion. The expenditure and the net lending of last year was $28.8 billion, and this year there is an increment to $30.0 billion. So we are having a revenue of $24.4 billion, but we want to spend up to $30 billion. Means we are not cutting our clothes according to our size. Honorable Speaker, the debt payment in this year's budget, last year it was $2.7 billion, and that has also increased to $4.6 billion. I believe Honorable Minister, as an expert in his job, I think he knows what are some of the implications of this, the debt interest payment. It has a lot of implications on the economy of the country. From there, we look into the financing. Honorable Speaker, last year, the domestic borrowing was at $3.5 billion, and the foreign borrowing was $1.2 billion. But this year, it has increased, the domestic borrowing has increased to $5.5 billion, and the foreign borrowing has also increased to $3.9 billion. If you compare the domestic borrowing of this year, or 2020, and the foreign borrowing, the domestic borrowing of 2020 and the foreign borrowing of 2019 is 5 times more than last year. I think we have to look into this and consider that the Gambia is, we are a developing country and we need to look at this as a country. From there, Honorable Speaker, I have a question to the Minister, and the question would be, looking at the deficit, can he just explain to this Honorable House where will be the source of this deficit? If we are to pay, where is going to be the source of the deficit? I think that has to be explained. And again, as a parliament, I think we are also demanding or requesting for 2020, we want the quarterly budget report so that, we will monitor. I will come back to it. And again, we are requesting from the Honorable Minister to give us the breakdown of the centralized services, because looking at the amount of money that is going into centralized service is far more important. We're seeing that, centralized service is far more important than the Ministry of Agriculture. So we want a breakdown of that centralized services. The President's visit to the provinces, I've gone through the budget, but I didn't see it anywhere. So I want you to tell us whether there will be no visit next year or whether it is, hide somewhere, and we want to know the amount if it is there. Last year's budget, as the Honorable Member for Jimara said, last year's budget, we all agree that the allowances of the National Assembly members need to be paid. But I think the minister just, ignore it and don't want to implement that. And we want him to look into that. The staffs. Honorable Minister, coming to the ministries, I will start with the Minister of Health. We have a problem as a country, and we need to fix it. Nobody can fix our problem except ourselves. And we want to start. We want to set the precedents this year by making sure that the needs of our people are felt, because the whole country is here, starting from URR, CRR, North Bank, the Fonis, Kians, everybody's here. So whatever decision we take here means we are taking the decision on behalf of everybody. So we want to make record straight. First of all, looking at the budget, the allocation to the Minister of Health, to me it is small. Small in a sense. I will start with my constituency. Honorable Minister, I am telling you, Access to health center in my constituency is a problem, and is still a problem, and it is never addressed. And I'm seeing that this government don't want to address it. So we want the money that is allocated to the Ministry of Health to be at least increased, so that that issue of access to health can be addressed. And in fact, I have been saying this here: access to health is not a privilege; it's a right. And we always want to demand for it. Please, can you put this into a consideration? A pregnant woman coming all the way from Sara Alpha, from Diabuguba Silla, from Damfakunda, either you go to Fatou Health Center or you go to Basse. From my own village, 28 kilometers, a pregnant woman. Women they are very valuable human beings. We need to give them their due. They have been suffering. We have to put that into consideration. We are budgeting not for ourselves, but the people. These monies are not to enrich ourselves, but to make sure that the basic human needs, not even wants, but needs, to be satisfied. We have the budget. Why are we putting it into the areas that are not necessary? Increasing the allowances of ministers from $80,000 to $180,000. What for? Are they there to enrich themselves, or are they there to work for the country? Maternal and child health delivery in my constituency is a problem. I will give you, let me take you through the 2013 or 2016 GBOS reports. In the Gambia, the maternal mortality ratio was estimated at 706 deaths per every 1,000 live births in 2016. Is this not a cause of concern to a country? Why should we be dying like flies when we have the money to put it into this sector? The 2013 population and housing census estimated that 35 out of every 1,000 children born alive will not live to celebrate their first birthday. Is this not a cause of concern? As the citizens of this country and as decision makers, please, honorable members, can't we look into this issue? Is this not an issue? Everybody cannot come all the way from the Upper River region and come and attend to some of these issues. Are we not looking into that? Are we not looking into these issues? Is Upper River region not part of the Gambia? And to my knowledge, we have only one doctor in the whole of Upper River region with a population of 200,000 people. Is that fair enough? Whilst every 63 out of every 1,000 would not live to celebrate their 5th birthday, is this not a cause of concern? Are we seeing health as not a right, but we just seen it as a privilege? We all have equal rights when it comes to the equitable distribution of state resources. Reducing maternal and child mortality, Madam Speaker, is one of the priorities of the international communities as indicated in 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. Improving well-being of mothers, infants, and children is an important public health goal for the Gambia. One of the outcomes of the NDP, National Development Plan 2018-2021, is strengthening quality service delivery for reduction of maternal, newborn, infant, child, adolescents, morbidity, and mortality, and improve adolescents and youths. If this is what is in your National Development Plan, why are you not paying attention to it? Do we know that HIV and AIDS in this country is on increase? And the related diseases like sexual transmitted disease, and is badly affecting the young people in this country. Do we want to leave everything in the hands of the donors? What about if they don't intervene? What are we going to do as a country? Is this not a cause of concern? If I am not affected, tomorrow I might be affected. Or if I am not affected as an individual, my brother is affected. If I am not affected as an individual, my neighbor is affected. if I am not affected, this is a cause of concern anyway. Coming to agriculture, Honorable Speaker, we all say that agriculture is the backbone of this country's economy. I said this in the President's address to the nation. When I was trying to call for the minister to look into the issue, the GDP of agriculture at some point was contributing 33.3% to our economy. It drops from 33.3% to 25%, from 25% to 22%. And at that point, I told the minister that, come next time, you are going to tell us that it also drops from 22% to 18%, and this is what we are in today. Agriculture is contributing 18% to our GDP. Is this not a cause of concern to the minister? We are taking the chunk of our budget and put it into the security. That's defense and interior. We think defense and interior are more important than agriculture. Why are we putting that huge amount of money into defense and interior? Because we want security. Don't we know that food insecurity is one of the biggest challenges that this country can ever face? Food insecurity increases crime rates, robbery. When people are hungry, they are capable of doing anything just to survive. And this is what is happening. These are the realities on the ground. You go on the ground. As a youth, if I cannot have $5 in my pocket, what do you expect me to do? And this is one of the areas that employs 70% of our youth, or the entire population. Are we not putting this sector into consideration? What do we want to do as a country now? We all knew that the extension farmer ratio in this country is just terrible. Every 2,000 farmers, they are given one extension worker. Is that realistic? That is not. I was with the thinking that this budget is going to address this. We want agriculture to move. How can agriculture move? When what they need are not given to them. Before, farmers were producing. There were these mixed farming centers. They were 24/7 operational. Farmers were going there. They were having some of these things, farming implements, small farming implements. The technical services was there given to the farmers. Today, what is happening? I, as a farmer, if you come to me like you are an extension worker, I don't even believe in you because I see you once in a blue moon. Do you think with any experience that you come, I'm going to even listen to you? I will not. What about the farming implements? When the people of CRR are going into Senegal, the southern part of Senegal, Casamas, to go and pay for tractors to come and plow their farms, is that fair? This should have been captured in the budget. I said it, the mixed farming centers. The condition of the mixed farming centers. Are we committed as a country? Are we committed to look into some of these issues? How many mixed farming centers are lying down there? In my own constituency, there is no even single mixed farming center. We have to go up to Basse Major Town, or we go to Kantora. The one in Kantora is occupied by the militaries. What are we doing to make sure that issue is fixed? This budget has to address this, and it is not addressing it. So we want you people to look, I am urging all National Assembly members, we look into this issue. If we want agriculture to move, then we have to give them what they need. Access roads is one of the biggest issues in this country. If you are sitting down in the Combos here, you think what is happening in Combo is the same thing that is happening in the Upper River region. You as a minister, I want you to go and tour the whole country and see the conditions in which we are living. We are dying, we are suffering. We are part and parcel of this country. Nobody can take us out from this country. But we are suffering, you go down there. Is government not putting this into consideration? Access roads to our rice fields. So we want agriculture to produce, but we don't want to give them the money. How are they going to produce? Are they going to produce with their fingers? Markets. Produce. We are going to give them money to produce. Produce. At the end of the day, where are those markets that they are going to sell their produce? It hurts me. Sometimes, when I go to Upper River region, especially Basse town, my chest sometimes is full of anger. But there is nothing I can do about it. When I see my people spreading their mats and selling their goods, they will come and kick them out because they live all the way from Tumana constituency, come to Basse constituency. There is no space for them. Are we thinking in that dimension? The women are sovereign. The honorable member from Sandu said this here yesterday. 50% of all that vegetable produce that the people of Upper River region are producing is coming from my constituency. Why are we not treated fairly? We should be given market so that people can come all the way from the combos. They will buy direct from the producers. There will be no middlemen involved. When they are involved, the money that we gain from this from our own produce is very small. It's very minimal. That's not going to take us anywhere. Are we not looking into that dimension, Honorable Minister? And again, the most important thing is value addition. You go out there, how many, in terms of tonnages, watermelons are lying down on the streets. What are we doing about that, Minister, Honorable Minister? We are not adding any value to it. We should be having some of these, a kind of factories that will be adding value to our watermelon that we are producing so that, the farmers will be motivated to produce more. This is going to serve as an income for them, and they are going to pay taxes to the government. Our revenue base is going to be raised. But are we doing that? We are not.